Continuing on this Monday from the studios of News Talk 98.9 WORD. Of course, it's been a big deal for us to return to the station where it all started for yours truly 35 years ago, back on the airwaves in this powerhouse radio station. I thought it would be really important to have somebody that is a part of the South Carolina fabric to be our guest on this first show, and that would be South Carolina Senator Josh Kimbrell. He's a member of the, of course, the state Senate representing District Number 11, and he pulled something off. He led the charge against non-citizens being able to vote in any election in South Carolina because election integrity is so important. So, Senator Josh Kimbrell, welcome to my debut show on WORD. It's great to have you.
Well, good to be with you. We're so glad you're back in the upstate. We've missed you, Mike. So welcome back to South Carolina. Your home state. We still claim it's your home state, so we'll go with that.
Well, I hope so. I hope you still claim me as your own because, and of course, every time I talk about the upstate on the show, people in the upstate say, Mike, hush, stop talking about how great South Carolina is. We're going to get too many Yankees back in here and cause more congestion on I-85.
Our joke is we have actually somebody in town put up a billboard, several of them a few months ago, pretty funny. Said, stop moving to South Carolina, we're full. So we're glad for tourism. We're glad for the tourism, but we're kind of the opinion we're full. So we're good. We'll take you. Not everybody.
I'll help you take one more. And of course, Joey Hudson back on WORD as well. So we're just excited. It's been a great day and great to celebrate it. And I am so honored to have you join us because everywhere I go, every speech I give, every day I talk on air, I hear people say election integrity is everything. If we don't get the election right, none of this is going to matter. And I appreciate that. We got to vote. We got to register. I want to get your take on mail-in ballots and early voting and all that in just a moment. But let's talk about what you accomplished. The Senate passed your request for a referendum for a constitutional amendment that is so important, the citizens-only voting amendment. Senator Kimbrell, tell us all about it, please.
Well, so we did this largely, Mike, in response to what's happened in places like California, New York, Washington, D.C., Chicago, Illinois, where they've extended the right of suffrage to people to vote who aren't citizens of those states or even the country, even the United States of America. And some folks said to me, and a couple of our detractors, so why are you doing this? Because the state constitution in South Carolina already says that every citizen of the United States and of the state of South Carolina have the right to vote. We agree with that. That sounds innocuous enough. The problem is that exact same language in our state constitution is in the constitutions of states like New York and California and Illinois. And what the courts have found in those jurisdictions is when cities like California or Chicago or New York have decided they want to extend the right to illegals to vote, non-citizens to vote in municipal elections or school board elections, county council races. They've done that because it's easier to win when you know you have a built-in Democratic constituency that's going to vote for the left every time. And the same language in our Constitution is in theirs. And those courts, when it was challenged, said, well, yeah, the Constitution says every citizen has a right to vote, but that's a floor, not a ceiling. In other words, yeah, every citizen has a right to vote, but it doesn't specifically say that non-citizens aren't eligible to vote as well. So what we decided to do is strike out one word in this referendum that's going through the House and the Senate. It passed overwhelmingly in both chambers, and now it goes to the ballot here in November, and 80% of respondents right now are saying they plan to vote for it. I think that number might even be higher. We struck one word out, Article 2, Section 4, instead of saying every citizen of the United States and of the state of South Carolina have the right to vote. Only citizens of the state of South Carolina and of the United States of America have a right to vote. It sounds simple, but it has very meaningful impact, and no court now can take the language in our Constitution and view it as ambiguous to extend the right to vote for people who aren't legally here. And so I think that's very important. In an era of open borders and an era of people worried about election integrity generally, we're closing the door to any funny business in South Carolina.
You know, you come to mind when people say to me from all over the country, well, what is anybody doing about challenges to election integrity? I mean, well, here's Josh Kimbrell leading the charge to get this passed, and it's a huge accomplishment. You should be very proud of your efforts, and I know South Carolinians are as well. Let's talk for a moment about all those processes. I've always been a guy, hey, election day, paper ballots, I want it done the old-fashioned way. I'm afraid, Senator, those days are gone. And I agree with President Trump now and many others who have embraced the tactics of saying, hey, if the Democrats can do it, we got to do it too. We got to do mail-in ballots. We got to do early voting. We have to flood the ballot box every way we can. Have you sort of made that sort of transition as well, or are you still worried about all of the shady tactics that the Democrats use in order to try to steal an election?
Well, I have a nuanced view, Mike. I mean, I'm with you. I used to view it as election day, not election month. It's kind of crazy after COVID. Now it's election month. We've taken some stands here beyond just the constitutional amendment that I got passed this past week. One thing I worked very hard on 2 years ago with my colleagues, is we made it very easy in South Carolina to vote if you're legal, and very, very hard if you're not. So I agree that the former president's right. We're going to have to beat them at their own game, but we need to be sure the rules of the game are very clear. We do not allow for ballot harvesting in South Carolina. You cannot go door to door in this state and just collect a bunch of ballots. What we did do is extend no excuse early voting in person. So in our state, you can vote early, but you can vote in person. You can't vote early, no excuse, just by mailing it in. We do not allow people to go through neighborhoods and collect boxes of ballots and do drop boxes. We have no drop boxes. You can still do a mail-in ballot, an absentee ballot, a provisional ballot, if you have an excuse, like you're out of the country, you're out of state, or you're doing something, jury duty, whatever. But we've made it very easy to vote early in person in your county. So we don't have just election day anymore. I think those days probably are gone, but we're making it very hard for people to cheat. So we've made a lot of changes in South Carolina to where you can vote early and you can vote a week or 2 weeks in advance. But it's real hard to cheat, and you still got to show a photo ID, and you still got to do it in person.
Visiting with South Carolina Senator Josh Kimbrell here on the Mike Gallagher Show. Senator, I know you've got a great relationship with Governor DeSantis. My dream pick as we get closer and closer to November 5th is a Trump-DeSantis ticket. I don't know if there's any chance of that happening. The latest rumor is that it might be Tim Scott, it might be Doug Burgum, it might be J.D. Vance, it might be Marco Rubio. Who's the Josh Kimbrell pick? In a perfect world, who would President Trump pick to be his vice presidential running mate?
Well, I agree with you on the dream ticket. I mean, I love Governor DeSantis, and I, of course, love former President Trump. I think they'd be a dynamic duo, hard to beat. And Ron DeSantis brings a lot to the ticket that would balance it. He's youthful, energetic. I think very few people could say he's not the most successful conservative governor in the country. I mean, everything that all of us want as conservatives, he's been able to do in Florida, and he's got the know-how to do it. He's smart as heck. I think he would be a great pick. I don't know if that'll happen. I have not spoken to the governor about that. We stay in touch and we talk pretty often, but I haven't asked him, and I figure I'll find out when everybody else does. But if Ron DeSantis is the vice presidential pick, I think it'd be an overwhelming landslide. But I mean, look, Tim Scott's a great choice too. But Donald Trump's unpredictable in some of this. He likes to surprise us, and it may be somebody none of us have even heard of yet. But I think certainly if I had my preference, Trump DeSantis ticket would be a dynamic duo, and it sets up the former governor or the current governor of Florida to be the next president, which I think would be excellent. If you get 4 more years of Donald Trump and then potentially 8 years after that of Ron DeSantis, the country would definitely be in much better shape than it is now. He might still yet save our country.
Well, I believe that prayer works, so I'm hoping everybody's praying for that ticket because I think that will be. And listen, these polls are coming out. The Rasmussen poll came out Friday. Trump over a double-digit lead over Biden on the latest Rasmussen poll. All the polling suggested, Josh. I mean, it's looking really good right now.
I feel very good about it. I mean, look, I think every American, even people who didn't vote for Trump in 2020, are watching what's happening now in New York and these crazy indictments. And everybody, I think, is concerned about that, even if they don't want to admit it. We don't want to become a banana republic. And when you see what's happening right now, where you have a former president on trial with, I think everybody who's got a law degree, and I'm not a lawyer by trade, I do have a master's degree in law, so I went to Liberty University for that, so I understand pretty well what's going on, even though I don't practice. And I can tell you, everybody I've talked to who's a lawyer, and certainly my own opinion is this is such a sham case, it's such an overreach, and they're just trying to nail him because they don't like him politically, and this sets up a precedent. If we start prosecuting people who we are politically in disagreement with, you're going to look a lot more like Argentina or Venezuela, and I don't think anybody wants that. So I believe that really these indictments of the left thought this was going to hurt Trump. I think it's going to help him. I mean, I think most Americans look at this and say, goodness, if it can happen to the 45th Commander-in-Chief, it can happen to me and my family, and we got to put a stop to that.
This is why Josh Kimbrell is one of the most successful legislators in South Carolina and one of my favorite guests. And now that I'm on WORD, we're going to have you on more often. I mean, because I'm going to be visiting there a lot, and we want to get you back on the show as often as possible.
Well, I'm going to look forward to seeing you on the being here on the air with you as often as possible and seeing you in person. The only thing, Mike, I regret that since you left here is we don't have the open hearth anymore, so we have to go somewhere else for steak.
Not only open hearth, but BB's. My gosh, they had the Mike Gallagher special at BB's all those years, and finally Maria and George said, "Nah, time to pack it in." So I don't know where I'm going to eat. Well, I think I'll find some places.
I've got a list of recommendations. We'll take you some good places.
Maybe Saskatoon will be my first stop, or we'll find some good places to go.
You can't go wrong with Saskatoon. And then when you come over to Spartanburg, I'll take you to Sophia's and we'll get you a nice Italian meal and a side of Lipitor after we eat it.
That's my favorite. Oh, we'll see you soon. Keep fighting the good fight, and congratulations on this terrific piece of legislation that you spearheaded. All the best, Senator. Keep fighting the good fight.
Thank you, sir. You too. I'm glad you're back.